from the heart, I want to know how we can impact things. Text the word EIR2040 to 41411. Take 30 seconds, respond to the micro survey, because it is truly about letting us know how to better help you.
That's Thomas K.R. Stovall. He's the founder of CANDID Cup Microfeedback. He is the master at asking single questions and getting data-driven feedback. Here's a quick snapshot of what his startup does.
We are a microfeedback company. We can turn any room into an instant focus group in about 60 seconds using one-question micro surveys. I am the entrepreneur in residence for 1871 Chicago.
You're listening to Techpreneurs, a podcast about stories of tech entrepreneurs. My name is Clark Buckner. This episode highlights Thomas K.R. Stovall with his story, how he's growing his startup, and also how he frequently collaborates in his community by bringing people together. 1871 Chicago has previously been a significant partner to him already, but here you'll learn how he's taking it all to the next level.
1871 has been a great support. It's the reason why the events that I've been doing have been relevant and why they've grown so quickly. And I think with the CODE2040 Entrepreneur in Residence position, I'll be able to just kind of amplify that platform. So it's one thing for Thomas Stovall in Chicago, one person who's kind of organizing this thing and caring about the community. It's a different situation when you've got Google behind you, when you've got CODE2040 behind you, when you've got an entire nation watching what you're doing and wanting to invest in it. And there's 6 other people that all are invested in the same vision in different cities, and we get to work together now. We get to leverage resources now. It's a phenomenal opportunity, and I'm very excited about it.
We're happy to bring you these stories with the support of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, one of the Google for Entrepreneurs tech hubs. I could not be more excited to have you right here with me. I hope you subscribe. Visit techpreneurs.co or simply just search Techpreneurs anywhere you download podcasts. Thomas starts things off here with what his team does and why it matters. Enjoy.
So what we do is, whether it's a room of 500 people or 5,000, we use one-question micro surveys to really get an instant beat on what people have to say really quick. So it works with autoresponders. So you literally text a keyword like EIR2040 to 41411, and you'll get a one-question micro survey delivered back to your device in less than 10 seconds. And you can, instantly quantify what people think, what's working, what's not. So we do that at live events. We do that in physical environments by integrating micro surveys into the bottom of dinner plates and cocktail glasses, coasters, napkins. Literally, we can track buses, trains, planes, anywhere in the world down to the second.
Wow, so you were saying you can hide these in places too?
Yeah, we integrate them into an environment. So if you're driving down the street, you might see a banner with a micro survey about road construction. You're walking down the sidewalk in your community. You see a banner on a building. How do you feel about this new construction project in your neighborhood? So it's literally for transportation, it's for government, it's for businesses, anybody who needs to know what people who they work with or do business with think. And that's pretty much everybody.
And it's a text, right?
It can be. We can use QR code. We can use text message. You can go directly to a URL. A micro survey is online. It's a URL that tracks feedback. It's a one-question survey, 140 characters or less. And how we get people to that URL, we use text autoresponders, QR codes, different mechanisms.
What do you think would be a good question we can use for this podcast? Just like a short little way to explore this, because this will help me understand it even more.
Well, I think the question is already set up, but the question that I asked is, in terms of impacting Black and Latino participation in their local business communities, number one, do you know what the resources are? And number two, what resources do you need? So The first part of the question really quantifies whether or not people know how to get at the resource, because we know there are some out there. And the second part of the question really finds out what they think they need.
All right. So right now, get your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And can you give that number one more, the keyword in the text and the number? You're
going to text the word EIR2040, like Entrepreneur in Residence CODE2040. Text EIR2040 to 41411. You'll get a one-question micro survey back on your phone, and take 30 seconds and let us know how we can help.
So what does it look like when you really zoom it all out and you can really specifically look at those outcomes? What do the outcomes look like, and why do they matter?
So I can tell you about one in particular. There's an organization called Diageo. They're the largest manufacturer of premium wine, beer, and spirits on the globe. And they do really, really large events. And two in particular were the National Black MBA Conference in Orlando and the National Society of Hispanic MBA Conference in Chicago. And they spend a very significant chunk of change on these events. There's no way to quantify ROI. And they've done this several years. And they hired us this year because they wanted to find out, look, are these valuable for us? We have no clue. There's no way for us to get feedback from the people in the room. We're talking about 600, 800 people in a few hour time span. Do they care that we're doing this? And so what we did in Orlando was we were able to get them using micro surveys and micro survey cards literally on site. In 1 hour, we averaged one micro survey response per minute for an hour with all the people that were in the room at that event. And we found out what the narrative was about Diageo. And mostly we found out that they loved the event, but they didn't necessarily know who the brand was. And so that informed us going to the second event in Chicago with the National Society of Hispanic MBAs. At that event, we actually did a different micro survey question. So same kind of engagement, but the question that we asked, we use a context statement first. And so the context statement was, Diageo is the largest manufacturer of premium wine, beer, and spirits on the globe. But what matters is, who do you say we are? And so what we found out from the 100+ responses in a 3-hour time period in that 600-person room was that only 2 people out of the 100 used any of the words largest, manufacturer, premium wine, beer, spirits, or globe in their responses. But what they did say is, Diageo to me means family. It means life. It means culture. It means fun. It was 96% positive feedback, but nobody used any of the narratives that Diageo uses to describe its brand. And so the opportunity there is to find out literally by region, by city, what the narrative is about your brand, and start to have your sales materials and your advertising literally match the narrative that the consumer already has about you. So we're able to uncover that.
Wow. What surprises you the most when you do these micro surveys? Is it the brand connection that consumers or a customer has, or is it something else, or is it everything? What else has really surprised you about the outcomes from Candid Cup?
I think one of the things that's been really interesting to watch is no 2 rooms are the same. So anything that you would expect to get, people say, what can you get from one question? Well, when you ask one question to a room full of people and get an immediate response, you find out some really interesting things, because you're getting 200, 300, 400 different viewpoints on this one highly targeted thing. And so in aggregate, you actually get a really good view of the whole experience, because people say what they're thinking, but they also are going to give you a bunch of feedback about other areas too. So they'll answer the question, but they give you more. And so that more ends up painting a really clear picture of the entire experience. And that's been, I didn't expect that when I created this software. I thought it was going to answer one question really well. I didn't expect all the peripheral information that would come. And that's been really interesting to watch.
So that was in the context of a conference over an event. So how else have you found that you can use micro surveys?
Right. So what's been really interesting for us is seeing all the different use cases that people are interested in exploring. Faith-based organizations have reached out. We're in conversations with city leaders in different cities, transportation companies. We can track feedback literally down to the bus level. Every bus station, every bus stop, every train station, down to the second feedback. And in our OmniView dashboard on the back end, there might be thousands of micro surveys you've got spread across your entire enterprise, and you can monitor them literally like an alarm system. You select the 2 or 3 that you're interested in right now, and you've got a little micro feedback stream right there on the screen that you can see the feedback coming in real time, trending analytics around it, what the keywords are. So what's the prevailing narrative that people are, the words that people are using. So it's really interesting stuff that we can integrate it literally into any environment, physical environments or digital, radio shows.
Yeah. What's been and this might be off topic, but what's been the weirdest or most unique way that you've hidden a micro survey somewhere?
We've done things where we've integrated micro surveys into the bottom of dinner plates, and literally you get to the last bite And there's a little micro survey that says, well, if you can see this, we assume that the food was pretty good, but just in case, take 30 seconds and let us know. And so that stuff like that is really cool.
That seems more meaningful than most of the fortune cookies when you open those up. That's what they should really do.
Absolutely.
That's real cool. Okay, so I want to hear about your story a little bit. So we talked about your business. Now, let's rewind it back to 19-year-old Thomas K.R. Stovall and talk about how your entrepreneurial journey began.
So when I was 19, I did an internship, U.S. sales internship at a global company, and got an opportunity to travel all over the country. I stayed in my first 5-star hotel and ate my first porterhouse steak. It's a wonderful experience. And up until that moment, I'd majored in engineering and got my degree in engineering. Didn't really see myself as a business guy. And that was my first experience. So I thought, this corporate thing, I might be able to do it. And so I'd interned again that second summer. And the experience was good, but there was a moment that shifted everything. In a boardroom, there's 15 people in there. Most of them are middle-aged Caucasian men, which is fine. I'm the only intern in the room and the only black guy in the room. And they're deciding who they're going to hire for this new position. It's a relocation that comes with a $30,000 bonus. And so they put the first guy's name up on the whiteboard. We'll call him Jackson. And they say, okay, what do you guys think about Jackson? And, nobody really raises their hand. One guy kind of says, I had a few conversations with him. I don't think he's our guy. I've talked to him, and I believe that he's a newlywed, and him and his wife might be trying for a baby. Don't think that he's going to be the guy to move. And I'm thinking, you don't think? You're not sure? So they take Jackson's name off the list. He's done. And so the second guy's name goes on the list. We're going to call him Johnson. And so they say, okay, who knows something about Johnson? I've had some interactions with him, and in terms of the way he communicates, I just some about him I don't think he's the right person for this leadership position. And just like that, he's off the list. You got one guy who didn't like Johnson, and he's done. And it goes on like this until a name goes on the board that in general everybody has a few nice things to say about him, and I guess he's not planning on having any babies anytime soon, and he gets the promotion. And I was floored that this was the way that somebody was chosen for a position. And as we're walking out of that office, I asked my boss, I said, listen, are these other guys ever going to know that they were actually up for this promotion? No. And in that moment, I knew I was never going to work in corporate America. I'm 6'3", I have a goatee. I could hover over somebody wrong in the elevator, and that's it. So I just decided I was going to start. I like business. I'd start my own business, and at the time, I loved wheels and performance tires, and I thought, well, I can go back to college and sell this stuff, write it off at the end of the year, and that'll be awesome. So that's how I started in business.
I love that. So that's a big turning point. And a couple years later, you find yourself in real estate, right? Mm-hmm. And you're 25. So walk me through this. Mm-hmm.
So I finished in school. I did the custom wheel and performance tire business all through school. Sold wheels from New York to LA online, and graduated with my engineering degree. I did that. I continued doing my wheel business for a couple years after school. Never worked in engineering. And when I was 25, went out to LA, got an opportunity to work really closely with a real estate private equity investment firm. And they purchased real estate in San Bernardino, LA, and Riverside counties. And so I'm 25, standing on the auction floor, holding 7-figure checks, buying 3-4 properties a week. I'm in the boardroom helping to prepare presentations for multi-billion-dollar investment firms we approach for mezzanine capital. I am, at the construction site, seeing how these properties were the projects were managed with the contractors. And, eventually I was also at the closing table watching how, the properties got sold at the end to first-time home buyers and investors. I saw the whole thing. And I saw really there were rooms that I got to sit in that you just don't even know exist. And you don't get invited into those rooms unless somebody already in the room says, you know what, this is a good guy. He should be in this conversation. And mostly, if you get invited into the room, you're already in. The deal is yours. It's yours to mess up. And so the way that the conversations went, the first 30 minutes, there was no business being talked. It's just kind of shooting the breeze and checking each other out. And that wasn't what I was used to. I always thought you get in there, you start doing business and you start negotiating. There was no business. It was all just personal relationship. And at the end of the deal, the end of the conversation, 15, 20 minutes talking about terms after everybody, we've talked about golf and where you vacation and everybody likes each other in general and who do we know in common. And then it's just figuring out the general terms, pass it off to the attorney and it's done. I didn't know that's the way the business moved. And so I left that experience realizing that it's about relationship, and that is all that, that really makes business move. Everybody's competent, right? And a lot of us are exceptional. That doesn't get you in the room. Relationship gets you in the room.
Wow. Now, you took this experience. We're going to come back to that whole concept of relationships. I know that's a really big part of what Code 2040 is doing with building meaningful relationships from the very beginning. So when we fast forward now a bit more, you're 30, right? And there's tell me a little bit about how the real estate, how that grew over the next 5 years.
Okay, so I worked with that private equity investment firm for just under a year. Then I came back to Chicago, and in the span of about 18 months, I went from $3,000 of my personal savings and built my own real estate investment firm to 7 figures in 18 months, and did really well. Got a portfolio of several $1 million worth of real estate. Never lost money on a deal, but the things I didn't know about scaling the business, about managing contractors, about really growing a team, the details, that's where I really dropped the ball. So by the time I was 30, we were paying out somewhere in the neighborhood of about 25 grand cash into this black hole of real estate that popped up because there were a lot of drop balls that kind of snowballed over time. And so I found myself in a position where I'm 30 years old and I'm literally having to close the doors of my business, start over, no credit, no money in the bank, embarrassed, friends asking me, what's going on, and I've lost my personal residence, all of it. And that's the place that I started CANDID from, not right away, because there was a little bit of darkness that you got to walk through. You got to kind of find yourself after you lose that much. But that's where I started.
Wow. So now with the CANDID Cup, and we did a great demo earlier, so we kind of have an idea of how this works. So now you've been doing that for a few years, and you've also been doing, and this kind of touches back to what you said a moment ago about relationships, and it's all about relationships, and something you're really great at doing is bringing together people. And you have an event series called Black in Tech, and I'd love to hear more about the event series and also kind of how you're bringing that into your EIR role at 1871.
For me, the Black in Tech event series is an opportunity to take a blueprint that I've been shown for launching businesses. I've learned from great mentors over the years, and it's an opportunity to bring in founders from all over the country who've raised and generated millions of dollars. The founders that have been on our stage for the Founder Series have done $35 million of business. They're people who you've heard of. If you Google them, nationally recognized. And they come in, they share their stories to 200 people at 1871 per quarter. It's the largest technology panel in the Midwest for founders of color. And so, it's an opportunity for people who just don't really know how to build to see somebody who they would think is totally out of their league. And by the end of the conversation, they realize, wow, this guy's just like me. He didn't have much when he started. He just used what he had and built what he built, and then took that one milestone and turned it into 2. And it's a very vulnerable panel. And I think that's why it works. And people, they take that and they actually go and build something.
And you also have, and this is newer, and it's still being rolled out and everything, but there's also some new things that are kind of related to this too, right?
Yeah. So Black in Tech is one part of a bigger puzzle. If you really look at what's going to level the playing field, in my opinion, for entrepreneurs of color, there's really 5 pieces to it. Number 1, we've got to close the foundational knowledge gap in business. There's a lot of very passionate, well-intended entrepreneurs I meet that just don't know how to transact. They don't know how to get to contract. And so that first piece, we got to close the knowledge gap. Number 2, we really have to create consistent access to capital. And so what that means is having a community of early stage investors that are willing to put money behind emerging technology companies run by founders of color. And we know these people by name. They're actively looking at our deals. They do cut checks because we bring a vetted community of entrepreneurs with traction. And, they have their business together. They have their paperwork together. That's number 2. Number 3 is you have to have opportunity sourcing. And on the other side of that, you have to leverage relationships with people who are centers of influence. Opportunity sourcing to me means having a minimum of 5 corporate partners at the table who are willing to commit with a name on the dotted line and say, you know what, we're willing to take $5,000 every quarter and invest in 2 small companies, give them a contract. We're going to cut out all the red tape, and we're going to give them a 90-day beta trial, put them in a dark department somewhere where nobody has to see, and we're going to give them a shot. And if they can produce outcomes that make a difference for us, then we're going to help them expand from that 1 department to 2 to 5, and then regionally. If it doesn't work out, you know what? It was a great opportunity for them to learn. And we did some community service. We invested in diversity. We invested in this community. And, we feel good about it. It's some great press for them. And it's an opportunity for them to be an innovation forward company. And so that's number 3. Number 4, live events. Live events are where people come together. They look each other in the eye and they say, you know what? I like this person. I didn't know what they did before, but I really feel good about what they're doing. I want to learn more. I want to get involved. And it's where trust begins to form over time. It's where narratives around community begin to cement. And you need a consistent cadence of those live events for people to plug in and feel like they're a part of something. And the last piece is you need to have a platform that ties all those things together. And that platform is where you can go and see pictures, you can see video, you can have access to profiles that you can search founders by city, by state, by industry, by whether they're men or women and black or white or everything else. It's literally where you can find other founders that are gender diverse, ethnically diverse, and come from non-traditional backgrounds. It's where the media can find you. It's where investors can find you. And that doesn't exist for people who've been marginalized and people of color in technology. And so that's what Tech Launch Party is.
Tech Launch Party. And as you mentioned earlier, Black in Tech, it's just one piece of Tech Launch Party's grand vision.
Yeah,
right?
it would be part of that. So an event series. So those live events, Black in Tech is an event series. Tech Launch Party will have multiple event series that cover different things.
Wow, that's really exciting. So as we're starting to wrap up a little bit now, these things that you've been creating, it already has momentum, it already has validation. You're bringing this into 1871 as an entrepreneur in residence. So how do you anticipate some of the things you've already been doing, but now having access to Code 2040? Because I know you've been following Code 2040 for a long time because you've been doing really similar things. And also with the Google for Entrepreneurs Network, what are some of the things that you're anticipating that's in your site up ahead with diversifying tech in your community?
Well, I think that 1871 has been a great support so far. It's the reason why the events that I've been doing have been relevant and why they've grown so quickly. And I think with the Code 2040 Entrepreneur in Residence position, I'll be able to just kind of amplify that platform. So it's one thing for Thomas Stovall in Chicago, one person who's kind of organizing this thing and caring about the community. It's a different situation when you've got Google behind you, when you've got Code 2040 behind you, when you've got an entire nation watching what you're doing and wanting to invest in it. And there's 6 other people that all are invested in the same vision in different cities. And we get to work together now. We get to leverage resources now. It's a phenomenal opportunity, and I'm very excited about it.
I really appreciate you coming in and sharing your thoughts. I would love to, if there's anything else on your heart, you have anything else that you want to share?
I just want to say that I think the fastest way for us to really, really make impact is collaboration. The thing that I want to leave behind from my 1 year as being the entrepreneur in residence for Chicago is creating collaborations literally with every single organization in the city that is doing something, leading initiatives, leading programs for people of color in technology. There's no reason for us to be in silos. We all got to be working together, and we need to know what each other's goals are. And so, when you do that city by city, state by state, I think that's the way to make the fastest impact as opposed to everybody working in silos. Collaboration, relationship, that's how we get there.
I love it. Well, how about this? Let's That is such a great way to end this. And so how can someone follow along and learn more about, of course, CANDID Cup, your business, and also what you're doing in Chicago and at 1871?
The best way to follow up, if you want to reach me directly, give me an email, thomas@candidcup.com. I'm very responsive.
You spell CANDID Cup?
CANDIDCUP.com. And with the Black in Tech event series, we're very responsive. We have people all over the world that reach out to us. We're at I'm Black in Tech on Twitter, Instagram, on Facebook, as well as on Periscope. And last but not least, do me a favor. From the heart, I want to know how we can impact things. Text the word EIR 2040 to 41411. Take 30 seconds. Respond to the micro survey, because it is truly about letting us know how to better help you.
I love it so much. I'm so excited about what you're doing. I really appreciate you sharing your story and sharing the work you're doing, and I can't wait to continue to follow along, and I can't wait to text that too.
Thank you, man. I'm honored to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening. This season of Techpreneurs is powered by the Nashville Entrepreneur Center in support of the Google for Entrepreneurs Tech Hub Network. Find out more about the EC and how to become a member at ec.co. To learn more about Code 2040 and how to apply to be an entrepreneur in residence, head on over to code2040.org/entrepreneurs. We hope you'll join us next week when we talk to Marcos Cunha, founder and CEO of URoam. He is the entrepreneur in residence at Capital Factory in Austin, Texas.
It may feel like you're taking a chance by hiring a minority student or a minority because maybe they don't look like you, they don't talk like you. But trust me and trust the numbers and trust everything that you read about the importance of having that minority person in your team, the way they'll help you think differently, they'll help you understand such a huge portion of the population. They'll bring in a whole different mindset to how you should launch, how you should design. So it's a critically important thing.
Thanks again, and we'll see you soon on another episode of Techpreneurs.